Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to the snowy first day of the month of February. And this is your Westchester coronavirus update for Westchester County. The first of two such updates we'll provide this week. Of course, the snow outside, the snowstorm that we're experiencing, really is the number one story, but I'll deal with the coronavirus issues, both in terms of the infection and then the vaccination situation. Then we'll talk about the weather and where we are at that score. The information that we have from our tracker is effective as of yesterday, Sunday, January 31st, and we've seen in the last number of days a downturn in the number of active cases, primarily because the number of positive cases that are being tested are smaller than what they were 2 weeks ago. So more people are getting through the protocol of 2 weeks than are coming on board for the first time. That's a good sign, although we don't have dramatic loss at this stage of the game. At one point, we were as high as 11,600 cases during this particular time frame. Earlier in the year, we were 12,000 cases at its peak. We dropped down to as low as 400 cases. As of yesterday, we were at 10,506 active cases on a basis of 94,214 Westchester residents that tested positive for COVID at some point in time or another, and 83,708 of those individuals have cleared the protocol. So 10,506 individuals. That is down the last 3 or 4 days in a row. A week ago, that number, which today is at 10,560, was at 11,494. So we're encouraged that that's a drop of about 1,000 active cases between this week to last week. But we're very hesitant to predict trends. We think trends will take a longer period of time to discern than just what happens in a couple of days. They often have a rolling 3-day average, a rolling 7-day average as indicators of what's happening. So we'll take a look at this over the next week, determine if the news is good. There are still a lot of new infection cases. Last night, or Saturday into Sunday, we had 629 new cases of coronavirus. That's a significant number, and that's out of 11,890 people tested. So it's still a significant percentage. But nonetheless, the numbers on that score are heading in the right direction. The last statistic we had on hospitalizations came from last Wednesday. That's a while ago. And we'll try to update it for anybody who's doing a press story with more up-to-date information. At that point in time, we had 571 people who were hospitalized for COVID. And that number in the upper range of 550 to 600 has been pretty much where we've been at now for about 3 weeks. We started to climb pretty steadily in the period after New Year's, and we have sort of plateaued out. I guess we flattened the curve there. And of course, there's different people that are coming in and out of hospitals. Those that are well go home, and those that are ill come in. And the net amount in that range of 550 to 600 can change by 20, 30, even in a day. So once again, we don't want to draw observations over one day's worth of numbers. We want to compare them against others. We have lost 1,986 1,906 individuals to COVID through yesterday, breaking the 1,900 mark. Obviously, we're on path to break 2,000 fatalities to COVID. That represents about a 2% fatality rate of all the people that contract the disease. So as a fatality rate, that number has dropped because we've had more people test positive and a lesser percentage of them suffer fatality. But it is still a large number of absolute number of deaths. 1,906 is the number we had through yesterday on the New York State tracker. And we pick up those numbers on our Westchester County tracker. And our friends will put up that information so you know how to get into the Westchester tracker. We're still only able to track number of cases, positive cases, active and total. You can check on each of the different municipalities, but we have not been released to us fatality statistics nor hospitalization statistics, so that we can draw some other information on a local basis, on a town, city, and village basis. We have those statistics given to us by the state on a countywide basis, which is what we share with you. But in general, the numbers have flattened for a short period of time. We need to see if it turns out to be a trend line or not. Still, the virus is still very much with us, and we routinely talk about the light at the end of the tunnel being the vaccines, and so therefore that becomes the most important issue that we generally talk about. Through yesterday, we have 2 locations in Westchester County that the county government has direct involvement in the vaccination of individuals. The Westchester County Health Clinic in White Plains on Court Street, which we operate, and the Westchester County Center, which we own the building, and we have some of our staff people working there under the direction of the state and also in concert with Westchester Medical Center, which is through a partnership there. Through the end of yesterday at our clinic, aggregate 4,767 individuals received their first vaccination shot. And at the county center, 18,584 individuals received their first shot. That's a total of 23,351 people. Now, both of those two locations are closed today. And the state has just announced that the county center facility will be closed tomorrow. We have not made an official announcement about the closing of the clinic tomorrow. We will have to come up with a game plan in both locations to reschedule those people who were scheduled for vaccination. We did not schedule anybody for today at the clinic, which is again under our control, knowing that the weather would be problematic. But now that Tuesday becomes a problem, we'll have to make a decision on that. And I suspect we'll make it a little later in the day, and we'll make an announcement through the press so that everyone will know. We'll do it on social media and let them know if we're also canceling tomorrow. But the state has authorized cancellation the second straight day of the COVID the COVID vaccination at the Westchester County Center. And those issues are paramount in the minds of most people. When we have dealt with issues on COVID, we always consult with affected parties, and this morning was no exception. Every Monday morning, we have a group conference call, video conference call, with the various superintendent of schools. There are 44 school districts in Westchester County. A couple of them go over the border into Putnam County. And those 44 districts, many of them attend this call. And we talk through certain issues that are pending between what the county can do with the school districts. The school districts do not report to county government, but because we have a public health function and we're tasked to do certain things by the state, there is an overlap between the county and the school district. The state education department is the governing body that sits above the local school district. And then, of course, the governor has executive power across the board with every element of public policy in New York State. We discussed a couple of issues today. The first one I just want to touch on briefly was authorizing high school sports across the board. The state issued a decision about 10 days ago in which the governor said that it was at the local discretion of the departments of health if we would proceed with some of what's been designated high-risk sports for the season from here until the end of the school year. There are low-risk sports, things like golf and a few other sports that have been authorized all the way through swimming and so forth. Those that are high-risk sports include basketball, football, which are the two most prominent high school sports that are played in almost every community, and girls basketball as well as boys basketball are. So they're very intense sports in terms of the people that follow them. And for many young people who have great skill in those sports, it is a ticket to their future to get to go to college on a sports scholarship and perhaps even play professionally. We've had many professional players come out of Westchester County in both sports. But as a high-risk sport, there's a concern that you can more easily spread the virus with those types of sports. So the governor had banned them up until about, as I said, 10 days ago, and then he put the responsibility on local governments to work out a game plan for that. Westchester County schools participate in an association known as Section 1. I believe there are 9 sections across New York State, and our section includes the lower Hudson Valley counties, Rockland, Dutchess, Putnam, and we compete in a league, and we have a league champion in most sports. And so, therefore, the decisions, while given to the county government, were not made unilaterally by Westchester County. We talked with the county executives of the other counties, and the health department directors and commissioners spoke with each other to come up with an idea of how best to proceed on this. I announced last week that the county executives had determined that it would be safe to proceed with sports programs, but we wanted the local health departments to put together some protocols and regulations that would be necessary, that there would be a guidance memo on best practices that would come out of the public health professionals, that we would have parents as well as students sign a pledge, which would make sure that they were fully aware of all the different ramifications of participating in these sports, and to try to put things on a basis that if we can perform well and not spread the disease, we'll continue to play the sport. But if the spread starts to expand because of the sport, we will shut it down. That's the same philosophy we had in dealing with our own recreation as a county back in the summer with different things that we opened and different things we closed. So with those things in mind, we talked it through today, and those high school sports will resume. Right now, there's not going to be resumption of anything on a snowy day like today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point in time, there'll be a modified season, and there will be some of those high school sports to happen between now and the end of the year. But we're going to monitor it. We're going to make sure that there's test kits available for the schools so they can test their athletes, student athletes, and also try to make sure that every protocol is followed and reduce the spread as much as possible. Another issue that came up are the state regs that revolve around the distance that children have to have when they're in school, a 3 to 6 foot difference, the barriers and so forth. There's been a lot of debate about the policies. Some of that debate has been dropped at the county's doorstep. It is not within our authority, either the health department nor myself as county executive, to make any decisions to modify or adjust those plans and that protocol that talks about 3 feet versus 6 feet separation. There are some things happening in other school districts around the state, but at this stage of the game, it is up to the state Department of Health to change the criteria or for the local district to move forward in that responsibility. And it's a very difficult thing to ask a school district to make a decision that has personal health ramifications, and they're not healthcare professionals. They're not health experienced in the spread of communicable diseases. So, there are certain things that we think should be decided at the statewide level for everybody, and some should be devolved down to us as local governments. But each of those things are under the discretion of the governor, and so we try to react to it. So for those parents out there that want to see a change in the distancing rules, and that would allow more children to go back to school, because I think there's a great demand by parents to have their kids go back to school. There are questions about how well they're learning when they're in remote or hybrid settings, and there's concern that their children are going to lose a year of valuable education. In which case, you lose second grade or third grade or fifth grade, you fall behind as a cohort of young people because there's certain things you need to learn in fifth grade as a stepping stone to sixth grade education, and the problems will be felt down the line. So there are parents who believe that. There are also parents who believe the opposite, and they are in some conflict in certain districts, and they go before the school superintendent and school board to try to get certain decisions made. The important thing is if the state tasks us as a county government with the responsibility to make a decision, we will make that decision. And I'll stand by the decision publicly, as I have with high school sports and anything else that's come our way. If we're not given the authority, then the authority and the lobbying should be directed where it matters most. And in this case, that's to the state. I covered that ground already at the last presentation, but I think it's important to mention it again because we had our conversation this morning, and it's clear that the county does not have authority in making a decision in that area. Now, one thing that we are looking at doing is trying to ensure that as many teachers as is possible receive the COVID vaccine. Teaching is one of a number of different worker categories that are eligible to receive vaccination. Police, fire, correction officers, EMS, all sorts of medical professionals, doctors, nurses, and so forth are all entitled to be able to be vaccinated right now. But we know that it is not going to be really possible for us to open up the schools on any kind of a consistent basis unless all of the teachers and staff are vaccinated for COVID. That they would have that type of protection that would allow them the confidence to go to work and not be subject to the disease or spread. And in most cases, the concern that you have is less with the younger people, more with the older people, that it's those who are older that are most vulnerable to the disease. If your long-term teachers are very concerned about going back in that kind of a group setting. And so hopefully that will be something we can work on. We've worked to some degree with the New York State United Teachers, and working through that source to try to identify how many of those in the teaching profession want to get the vaccine. We're still at a point right now where it is a matter of personal decision to have the vaccine, and we want to try to see if we can resolve that, get as many teachers vaccinated as we can, which will then open the door for school to resume with the maximum number of kids inside a building with much less concern about the ability to spread the disease. But that is an issue we've discussed, and we do have some way to go with it. Let me switch gears now and talk a little bit about the weather that we're facing outside. This is a multiple day weather system that's with us. I believe they call it Orleana. or Orlena. I'm not sure. I guess it's Orlena. And Hurricane or Storm Orlena is going to be with us for a little while longer. She started doing her work last night. First flurries fell in the vicinity of 10 o'clock. We woke up this morning to maybe 4 inches of snow on the ground in some parts of Westchester, perhaps a little bit larger in a few others. But before this is all over, in parts of Westchester, we could have 20 inches and perhaps routinely 10 to 12 inches everywhere. New York City is expecting a very heavy lift, and it's been snowing steadily all day today. And I think we can expect that the disruptions of Monday are likely to be the disruptions of Tuesday. Where we are in some of the key areas of county responsibility. Westchester County Airport is open. It rarely closes, and the runways are kept clean on a perpetual basis. But there are no flights scheduled in or out of the airport today, commercial, nor, to my understanding, general aviation. The airport stays open in case of an emergency, a need for an emergency landing. And in that regard, we'll have a clean runway for someone to land on if they have to. But there are no other activities going on at the airport, and we'll try to maintain that status throughout the process. The Beeline bus system is shut down as we speak here. We're approaching 1 p.m. We had it shut down at 10 a.m. this morning. We rolled out the buses for the early morning commute, but we were very clear to all passengers that there would not be a return afternoon commute. This would just aid you getting to your place of residence or your appointment or whatever it is, and that you would have to seek alternate transit to get you back home. And that's a very difficult situation, and I think we want to encourage everybody to the best of their ability, stay home. Do not go out in this. As bad as it is right now, it's going to get worse. And as it gets worse, you could put yourself in a situation of jeopardy. And we don't want that. The Beeline bus system, the paratransit system is shut down today. We'll have some announcements later today about what our plans are for tomorrow. We have county police patrols that have been beefed up. They patrol the various parkways of Westchester County. That would be the Hudson River Parkway, Cross County Parkway, Sawmill River Parkway, Bronx River Parkway, Playland Parkway, and a few other similar type roadways. The state police governs the interstate system, which would be the New England Thruway I-95, the New York State Thruway I-87, and then, of course, 287, I-684, which also go through Westchester County. And from our standpoint, we have more police patrols out there to try to deal with accidents and to try to deal with stranded drivers. And there will be stranded drivers because we're approaching blizzard conditions, whiteout conditions with wind and with steady snowstorm precipitation. It's going to be very hard to see, and the potential for accidents and for difficulties are very much with us. So we encourage you to stay home. And in the meantime, we will have our police out there to try to help you out if we can. We want to highlight that we are responsible as a county government for the clearing, the plowing, and the salting of the Bronx River Parkway. Bronx River Parkway was treated with brine yesterday, as was our various parking lots that are at county parks, and then also the Grasslands campus in Valhalla. All of those represent the responsibility that we have as county government to plow it. It's not a huge task, but we are staffed and we have equipment for that task and not for any larger task. It's up to the towns, cities, and villages to shovel the streets of their municipality. And we pay local governments a fee because they plow county roads alongside of their own roads when they do this in their home communities. And so with that, our responsibility, Bronx River Parkway, the primary public situation, we may close the parkway from time to time as it appears that we need to do so for plowing. It is treacherous, and lower speeds are clearly logical, and staying home and not going out on the Bronx River Parkway or any parkway is the most logical thing to do of all. But we are responsible for that roadway. We're doing our best to make sure everything along those lines are taken care of. We have responsibility through the Department of Social Service to make sure that anyone that's homeless is properly secured inside an appropriate shelter. And our DSS people were doing that last night. They'll be doing it again tonight. This is no time for a person to sleep outside. You will lose your life if you try to do that overnight. And it's a fearful thought. So we will try our best to use our DSS resources to be able to adjust to that. As we look forward for all of these other different issues, we're going to try to coordinate with situations we don't control and try to get out public information as well. Metro North has announced that the last train leaving Grand Central will do so at 3 o'clock this afternoon. There will be no Metro North service later than that, and that's important to know. The governor has restricted any travel by non-essential individuals on any of the state-managed roadways, and he's been very clear that he's prepared to close down roadways if necessary. He's done that in the past. Right now, in our neck of the woods, the Sprain Parkway, Sawmill River Parkway, Taconic Parkway are three such roads that could fall under that situation. Governor has issued a declaration of emergency, state of emergency. I will be doing the same a little later this afternoon. These declarations give the executive some additional power necessary to reallocate resources and make sure we have everything we need to have in order to fight this. We have local states of emergencies that have been declared in certain municipalities for localized reasons, and each executive has some of that executive authority. We will be issuing our announcement a little bit later today, and it will be in effect for the next few days. We don't really know what Tuesday is going to look like, but we think it could be a repeat of what we have today. So we want to err on the side of caution and be prepared to do less. We shut down county government today, so only the most essential county workers had to report. We run a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week jail, county jail, so we have to have manpower there. We obviously have to have manpower in our police department to be out policing the roads. We have in our Department of Environmental Facilities individuals that are responsible for treating of sewerage. Very important situation. That process does not stop because the weather is bad. We have to make sure we have some people on board there. But with that thought in mind, we asked our workforce, if not essential in terms of the functions, to work from home and do so without risking themselves by coming out. We don't want any of the workers of Westchester County to be put in a jeopardy situation, and that's what we're trying to protect by keeping people home. And what happens tomorrow will be announced a little bit later in the day. That is also, a factor that's out there. There's a host of different things that we have to deal with the snowstorm, but I think that gives you at least a good general idea of what's happening. We know that the snow is going to continue to fall heavy throughout the day, and it'll slack off a little bit before overnight, but there will be some overnight snow. And if tomorrow morning is a pure dig out, then we will be focused on that. We may still get some snow into perhaps the early morning hours of tonight. Tuesday it'll be, and then we'll take it from there. With all of those things, if there are any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us online. Communications@westchestergov.com is a great place to go. In a couple seconds, we're going to go to questions from the press, and we'll try to address those. I also want to mention that today, since it's the 1st of February, is the beginning of Black History Month. There are quite a few educational efforts all across the county, sponsored by many different organizations, independent organizations, local governments, libraries, educational institutions, to take note of the experience of African Americans here in America, the accomplishments they've had, and a clear understanding of the suffering they've gone through. And this month highlights that as part of our ongoing connection with all communities in Westchester County. We make sure that whatever the ethnic group, that they're part of our great mosaic, and that we appreciate the presence of people from that ethnic group here. Ultimately, we're all Americans, we're all Westchester neighbors, but we want to take pride in each other's ethnicity. And we think it's appropriate to talk honestly about the stories that have led us to this point, and that's the fairest and the best way we can move forward together as a single people with different backgrounds. And so hopefully Black History Month draws us a little bit closer as we learn more about what that experience has been like. And not a pleasant experience for many of the years here in the United States, but we're committed to getting better. We're committed to reform and improvement, do it rationally, do it peacefully, and to go forward from there. At this point, we've gone about a half an hour now, not quite. I'm going to stop the narrative. It's a cold day, and I'll go to Catherine Chaffee for any questions that she has from the press and try to answer them. And then we'll take any questions a little bit later in the day as events evolve. Catherine?
Okay. The first question comes from Sarah from the New York Times. She would like to know if you are going to issue a travel ban similar to what Mayor de Blasio has done in the city.
Well, it's interesting that the power of a county executive is not equal to the power of the mayor of New York City. New York City is a unique city within New York State, and the mayor of New York City has authority that many of us do not have. At this stage of the game, I don't intend to close any roads particularly. The governor has already indicated with his superior authority, he is looking at the potential to close certain roadways If it is so that we have to do that, we have power only over county-owned roads. And the two major parkways in Westchester County, the Bronx River Parkway, that we have control over, and it's not a major parkway, but Playland Parkway, which connects Playland Amusement Park to I-95. So if I were to issue an order to close a parkway, those are the only two that I could govern. That's Cross Westchester Expressway, which is a connector from I-287 to northbound 22. So, Sarah, for the purposes of doing something broad-based that affects everybody, that authority is beyond my control. But we'll work with the governor's office, and if we do have to close a highway permit, not just to clear it, but close it from all traffic for the balance of the snowstorm, we will do that, and we'll announce it publicly if we reach that point.
Okay. The next question is from Todd from the Scarsdale Inquirer about school sports. He asks, what is the current status of high-risk sports in Westchester County? What was the delay after we were told there was DOH approval last Wednesday? And will there be further guidance coming?
Well, there's no delay. The opening date was always going to be Monday, February 1st, which is today. And because of the snow, that's the delay from there being any practicing going on today and perhaps tomorrow as well. There was a clarification of what the protocol was expected to be. And when the county executives made our announcement, I think on Wednesday of last week, that was the go decision. You get on the internet, you get on Facebook, and people comment and they go, well, I didn't see a letter. Well, there wasn't a letter. We made the announcement that we were going forward with this, and the authority was there for us to be able to do that. The Department of Health professionals, the various commissioners of health, met on Friday and went over certain types of issues that represent the implementation of how you conduct the sport. And the implementation are guidelines in how you will open it up. It's not a question as to whether you will or won't open it up. The decision was made. I made that decision in concert with other county executives. If there is a problem, we will react to the problem. And if the problem requires us to shut down a sport or more than one sport, we will do that. We won't be hung up on ideology. We'll try to be pragmatic in all the decisions we make. But the decisions that were made at that time now have to be implemented. And the implementation, how do you handle, a host of different things that come up in the conduct of a sport is very much a matter that the school athletic directors and the coaches of teams have to work through. I don't know all of the sports, but I know some of them. And if you're, I manage Little League baseball, so I have some idea. When you have a practice of your athletes, how do you handle their interaction in the practice in a way that keeps them safe? You have to come up with a set of little guidelines and regulations. That's what we've been working on, not the decision to do it or not do it. That decision was made.
Okay, that was the last question.
Okay, very good. Well, this is a very dynamic environment, certainly in terms of the weather. And we've also indicated that we purposefully will be discussing as a county executive team what we will do a little later in the day about tomorrow. We just want to make sure that the forecasts we have are accurate, and we'll certainly share those announcements with the press. We'll put them on our website, westchestergov.com, and then we'll put them as well on our social media. So if you're following Westchester County government, maybe it's not the most interesting thing to follow all day long, but if you have it as something that you check in on every so often, if we have any changes in announcement, we'll make that information. I am going to ask our friends before I leave to put up the graphic that gives information about the vaccines, where you can go online, where you can hotline phone calls, all those different questions about eligibility, where you can find the eligible questions, where you can go on for a vaccine hotline, 1-833-697-4829. There is also a place to connect on with forms so that you can complete your form. If you're looking for an application, it is a difficult process, but it's a difficult process because we do not have enough committed doses of vaccine. If we had the committed doses of vaccine, we'd be able to move forward. But if you haven't jotted these things down, it's up on the screen. Jot it down quickly before we say goodbye. And this information is available on our website, and also on the New York State Department of Health website. You have to fish around a little bit, little hunting, but you'll find what you're looking for if you do that. So I think we've exhausted your patience. And as you watch the snowfall, be safe. Make sure that you do all the things we have to do to deal with COVID, social distancing, and as well making sure that you wear masks. And let's be safe. We'll get through the snowstorm, and we'll get through the pandemic. There will be a sunny day yet ahead. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.